Hello, this is the Foul Whitey. I'm back, and you know, I'm particularly excited about this episode that we're shooting here on October 16th, 2024. I've got an unbelievable guest at my disposal. Before that, fly fishing Nielsen ratings are in, and we've plummeted to 38 fucking listeners. Plummeted. And I know why. I know why. Because the truth is what's lost me listeners. The truth from the inside. And that's what I love about the fact that I've got John Dobson this morning. And John, the reason this is such a credible quality guest is because repping the industry, which is what John does, is extremely difficult, especially when you string together, 2-3 decades of it.
Yeah. So,
John, say hello to our 38 listeners.
Hey, 38 listeners.
Yeah.
Come here for the truth, Rich.
Well, I mean, you know the truth.
Yeah.
And the truth is, so let's just I want to get this out of the way. What is Modobi? Modobi is a name you go by. Everybody calls you Modobi.
There's people in this industry that still don't know my first name. There still is people. And Modobi was a nickname given to me over a series of event that in British Columbia.
Okay.
And it's a story I tell often. It kind of is almost an icebreaker too. When I first started in the industry, they're like, "What is this Modobi? What does this mean?"
And we're talking M-O-D-O-B-I.
Right,
Modobi.
Right.
Okay.
So my last name is Dobson. My father's Dauber, my brother's Dobby. And then there comes the Modobi.
You're fucking kidding me.
No. Then there comes the Modobi. So, but the Modobi came out of a story where I was fishing in BC. And we were pulling out a boat. It was an icy day on the Kispiox. We were pulling a boat out. I put my Suburban in four-wheel drive, backed the trailer down as far as I could, hooked a rope on it, and I'm going to pull this boat out of the boat ramp. And I put it in gear, and I hear this pop. And I'm looking in the rearview mirror, and all of a sudden I see the tire coming out of the wheel well, like a Flintstone car.
What the fuck happened?
I busted the rear axle.
Gotcha. Well, what does that have to do with?
So the buddy that I was fishing with, he runs up to the truck and he goes, "Well, you certainly Modobi'd that one." And I said, "What does Modobi mean?" We're just these tense moments here. And he says, "It's got to be Indian for he who lives by high impact." Because I've never seen more shit break in anybody's hands. So that was my nickname.
Just like that.
Just like that. And and so what happened was when I first started my repping business, I asked a buddy, I said, "Well, what should I call my rep business? Great Northern, rep company."
Yeah,
like,
most are named poorly.
Right. And
I would say that.
He says, you should name it Modobi. You should name it Modobi Fly Fishing Products.
Yeah.
He goes, "It's just an icebreaker story. You're going to get, you're going to tell people this story. It's going to give you some legitimacy.
Yeah. Well, it fucking worked because, I mean, like...
there's people out there that don't know my name.
Well, they're not in the know. Exactly. Holy fuck. So this is, I'll tell my 38 listeners this. John is such an interesting guy. Modobi is such an interesting guy. Is that, like, on his professional voicemail, I can't tell you right now exactly what the fuck it says, but I'll just say this. The word intergalactic is in his professional fucking voicemail. So this man is, he's eccentric. And he represents, really, he's got a quality book of business. The gentleman, I'm going to start with Scott Rods. So, talk to me about Scott Rods. as quickly as you can.
Sure. No, I started with 3 brands.
Yeah.
When I came into the repping industry.
Yes.
I had a small. I mean, I had a role as a fly fishing guide for years.
Correct.
I owned a fly shop
Yep.
in a little town called Saratoga, Wyoming.
Right.
And then followed into the repping career.
Okay.
So Scott was one of the first brands that I carried, and
How long have you been with them?
20 years.
Oh boy,
20 years.
Jesus.
It'll be 20 years this fall.
When did they build their first rod?
74.
Wow. So Scott's been
1974.
around.
Oh, they've been, they were part of this. There's a whole history of American rod making that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
A lot of this came out of the Golden Gate Fly Fishing Club.
The casters?
The designers.
Oh, wow. Well,
The
yeah,
designers.
that kind of that Ray-Jeff thing, right?
Well,
Or,
it was. I mean, you can go back to Harry Wilson,
Yeah, wow.
who was the designer at Scott, the original owner of Scott Rods. You can go back to Lou Stoner, Doug Merrick. I can't remember. What was the designer for Sage back in the day?
I have no fucking idea.
Oh, I think it's.
I mean, if it's not Angus Young, I don't even pay attention.
I think it's Green. I think it was a gentleman by the name of Green, and they were all members of the Golden Gate Casting Club.
Right.
And they were all trying to design. It's a neat history, because if you trace back to material-wise, it was fiberglass. Well, and then there was bamboo. Then there was fiberglass. Then this new material, graphite, came out. So everybody was trying. Back in the day when fiberglass was made, you still had a brass ferrule. You still had something that attached to the blank that then made the connection. And the race was on to who was going to make the first 9-foot 4-weight in graphite. And
I mean, that was a big deal.
a huge deal.
God, that's
4-piece.
Yeah.
Lightweight,
Yeah.
able to travel with.
Yep.
And how was you going to design a rod that was going to have the action, say, of a 1-piece, or at that time 2-piece?
2-piece. Yeah.
rods,
I mean, yeah.
Right. So, it's a company I'm really proud to be
Well,
part of.
I know, and I mean, that's really, for me as a dealer, for me as a retailer, Scott is, they've come into their own. I mean, they just have. I mean, the thing is that, I mean, the Centric, which is their multi-purpose rod, I've done great with that. But for me, being a saltwater shop, holy fuck, I've sold a ton of sectors. I mean, I really have. And, the reason that's big for me is because, I mean, I'm a Sage shop. That's what I am.
Yeah.
But the reality of it is that Scott would be, if I could only have one other top tier American-made fly rod outside of Sage, it would be Scott.
Love it.
I mean, I'm saying that. I'm saying that based on, I'm not saying this to call any rod companies out whatsoever. I mean, Winston makes some great rods. G. Loomis makes some great rods. But it's Scott to me was always a younger cat's rod. Right? I mean, they were. I would say
we kind of traditionally went to the fish head.
Yeah.
We went to the guy who said,
yeah. The trout bum.
I'm the guy who's going to sleep in the dirt at the campsite, and I'm going to get up first thing in the morning, and I'm going to get that run before anybody else does. No, that was always kind of what we marketed ourselves into. And gradually, we started to take more notice. More notice was given to us by the guy who was looking for the quality, the American craftsmanship, the technology.
The thing, people rail on media. They rail on devices, right? But as a retailer, I sell Scott because they've got the buzz. I mean, I sell Scott. I fuck, you walk into my shop and somebody says, "Hey, what do you got?" Well, if you want an American-made rod, it costs, this is your entry level. And you kind of, you find out quick what somebody wants to buy in a rod.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
And I start with that by asking them, do they want American-made? Right?
Yeah.
And then you just kind of go up. My point is that when you get into that class of a Centric, an R8, right, an NRX, an Air 2,
Right.
Scott they back a retailer like me because there's so many good things said about them online, and in the hand, it's a nice fly rod. I mean, their finish work is good.
Yeah,
and their service is good.
Yeah.
So Scott, to me, at East Rosebud, gotta have them.
Well, I want to touch on one little thing here too. Is that we're only sold in specialty fly shops.
Fuck, I'm sorry. I should have actually. That's big to me.
It's huge. It's huge. I mean, as the industry starts to grow and people are starting to clamor for more and more market share and more dollars.
Dude, I've done this for 17 years, and let's forget about selling direct. Let's just say selling to big box. Both rod companies, I'll just say I've mentioned them on this show already. Yeah. They fucked up dealers with weird, erratic, not long-term relationships with some box stores, meaning that you've got a box store entity that rod company, they've been in there fucking 2, 3, 4 times and out.
Oh yeah.
What the fuck? I mean, that's turn and burn.
Sure, they're looking for that. They're looking for that one big PO. And
what?
That's this month we're a little cash poor, so we'll go open up this dealer. I will tell you a little short history on the Scott Rod thing. We long time ago, I think it was maybe 2 years or 3 years. So we're talking about 23, 24 years ago. We sold in Cabela's. And we learned very quickly that the reason we were in can I say Cabela's?
Sure. Sure.
We're talking about independent fly shops.
Well, I mean,
So we were in Cabela's, and we slowly learned that the reason we were in Cabela's was because their rod was just like our rod. Our rod was, hey, you came in to buy a Scott, but look at our brand.
Oh.
Look at this brand.
So you're saying they didn't really turn?
They didn't really turn.
Yeah,
I think that's happened with a lot of American.
I think for me, I mean, obviously, a big box store can obviously sell $1,000 rod. They can't. I mean, my point is this. That's not why they're in there.
Right.
There's no way, because anybody that's really going to drop that fucking coin, and that rarely happens with somebody who doesn't have some sort of idea coming in what they're looking for, right? Those box stores and those rod vendors, they just do it for a quick pop.
Oh yeah.
I know a major vendor that had like a CEO that had no fucking idea what he was doing, and I know that they built for this box store hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of what used to be a top-tier rod that was just replaced by a brand new fucking rod that I'm over here with selling for $1,000. Right. You get what I'm saying?
No, I do.
I'm selling their product front line. I'm representing it hard.
Right.
And they're building a rod that's discontinued for a fucking box store to make a quick buck.
Yeah.
So, Scott, when you say, they only sell in specialty stores,
that's a big deal. I just want to finish that story.
Yeah.
So we pulled out. We pulled out of that.
Yeah.
We pulled out of that situation, and from that day on, we do not sell direct, and they're only available at independent fly shops.
Which means a lot, because something. I'm like somebody. When it comes to corporate decisions of vendors in the sport, that some are just so dumb, it's shocking.
Yeah.
I'm beat down from it. So several years ago, I quit fucking caring about anything outside of my lease line.
Right. Sure.
I mean, shit. I mean, you all that, whether shit shows up in Costco or, they cut a backroom deal with fucking, Cabela's to make some money. I mean, it's kind of one of those deals where when you say that Scott only sells, to proprietary guys like me, I mean, that means a lot. You know, because, you know, let's face it, there's been some whoring out of product.
Right. Well, you know, I've watched all your episodes, so
Well, thank
I love.
you.
So
You're one of 38.
Again, I love the fact that you call it out, that you use the truth, and I think we're both like that a lot of ways. I mean, I don't try to pull a bunch of smoke over my dealers' eyes. I try to give them the facts of what's good, what's not, what can sell,
Yep.
what can't. So, I mean, one of the things I'm most proud of is the Scott. Is the Scott that doesn't sell direct, doesn't compete against our dealers, makes sure our dealers are treated very well. Delivery has been great. USA made product.
Boom.
So
boom, Scott Rock. Right. All right. Okay, so that's the end of the Modobi interview, episode 1. We'll be back shortly. Foul Hooked Whitey, out.